right, so we're really excited to have Lindsey Wisniewski back for a Borderline Ballers overtime, kind of small version podcast. We had Lindsey on an episode a few weeks back. She did great, actually, probably because she was working with Lindsey, and now she's going to work with me. It's easier when you work with someone with a similar name, I think, or at least that's a theory. So we'll see if I can do just as good of a job having her here on the show. But Lindsey, how you doing today? How are things in the great Pacific Northwest?
Oh, things are going great out here. We're just getting real hyped for March Madness starts tomorrow.
And you had some snow out there that you sent here to the Northeast, didn't you? I know you sent it to me, and I think for some reason you ordered it up extra large because we're buried here in the Northeast. We're lucky we can even watch the games on TV.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are finally starting to see our driveway out here, so maybe I was the living to the snow, so I send my apologies.
Baby steps for us here. Hopefully the people can get to Buffalo to see the first and second rounds. But as usual on Borderline Ballers, we're typically talking about the NBA first, and of course NBA is not going to take a huge backseat, but it'll take a little bit for the next few weeks as the focus is on the NCAA. But Lindsey, you and I have kind of texted a little bit about this in the past, and I know it's something that you definitely wanted to talk about, and that's why it's nice to have you here for this one segment where it's just you kind of being able to provide us with information. But Brandon Roy, great NBA player for a short period of time for the Portland Trail Blazers, had a really sad ending to his career with the injuries that took place, and now he's a very successful high school coach in the Seattle area, and taking his team to a state championship, beating his former high school. That's kind of a little storyline in there of itself. But before we dive into any of those things about Brandon Roy and what he's doing now, what did he really mean to Portland Trail Blazers fans, and how can his career be remembered in the short span that it was there?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for all Blazers fans, but I think that Roy, really was the heart of the team while he spent his time in Portland. He was unquestionably a leader in Portland, and I think, during that time, the Blazers kind of sold the idea that Roy, Marcus Aldridge, Greg Oden, were going to be the future of this team. And with those three guys, they went 54 and 28 in 2008, making the playoffs for the first time since 2003. So he automatically had an impact on the Blazers as a whole. He was known as the closer or the natural, because seriously, one of the best closers in the game, and he proved that over and over again, even when his knees were at his worst. So he meant so much to the Blazers that the team used this amnesty clause just in case he ever wanted to come back. They always left that door open. So, in short, it was, I guess the best way to describe it would be a punch to the gut for fans to lose him. And I've never heard anyone speak a bad word about him. Usually just something along the lines of, can you imagine what Roy would have been? And so I think it's difficult to say what he meant to the Blazers and the fans, but he obviously had a big impact.
Yeah, and I was just looking at his statistics too. I mean, in his 5 seasons in Portland, the guy averaged just under 20 points at 19 points a game, and he actually had 2 seasons where he averaged over 20. And I remember him a little bit at the University of Washington when he was in college, and certainly heading into the tournament, like a lot of players do before the draft, he got a few more accolades and a little bit more was noticed as being a potential, first round pick. But I don't think anybody really understood what type of player he was going to be. And like you mentioned, being a closer, but also being, I often think of Brandon Roy in a lot of ways when the term combo guard really became vogue. Here's a guy that could play point guard and shooting guard. And he really epitomized that. I mean, you look at his assist numbers, close to 6 assists one season, getting, almost 5 rebounds a game at the guard position. I mean, there's a guy that could really do a whole lot. And obviously, as you said, the knee injuries took him down, and he only played one final season in Minnesota for just 5 games, and that was really about it. But in addition to being sort of the pride of the Portland Trail Blazers, there's definitely a big buzz in recent years, probably within the past decade, of really this legacy of players in the Northwest, particularly the Seattle area. And we think about guys like Jason Terry and Nate Robinson, who's trying to make a comeback right now, Jamal Crawford, and certainly I'm partial as a Celtics fan to seeing what Isaiah Thomas is doing. So where does he fit in that landscape of those names? Because those are the key names now, and we don't want Brandon Roy's name to get lost in that conversation.
Right. Well, as you mentioned, you do have these guys like Jamal Crawford, Isaiah Thomas, Jason Terry, who, have all played ball here, but so has Roy. He was successful in high school at Garfield, as you mentioned earlier, as a Husky with UW, and he could have went anywhere, really. I mean, there was tons of colleges trying to recruit him. And then, of course, he ended up back in the Seattle area after completing his Blazers career, or if you want to say, his little time in Minnesota. But, even after his time playing professionally in the NBA, he's always been around organizing charity games. I've seen him a part of the Jamal Crawford program a couple of years now. He's always been a part of camps. Things that he could do to kind of keep the game close. And I think Roy has been such a big staple in the Seattle community, and he's carving, obviously this new legacy that we're going to get to here in a minute, as basketball coach here. So I think it only makes sense that, he has a big legacy here, just like these other guys, Jamal Crawford, Isaiah Thomas, who, are continuing to build up Washington State and kind of build up this hotbed of talent, per se.
Yeah, and so as you kind of talk about that, he makes a very significant transition because sometimes it's difficult as a player, no matter how the end of your career finished. We think about some great players that played in the NBA. Let's even take Michael Jordan, for instance, and, his kind of struggle to, be sort of in the ownership group with the Wizards. Then he wanted to come back so bad. Then he became part owner of, now the Hornets, but what was the Bobcats. And his drafting and his just overall management was kind of, not very successful early on, and now things are changing a little bit for him. I think of Larry Bird, who became a coach and, did it for just a short period of time, but was very successful taking his team to an NBA Finals. So some of the greats don't always do a great job with it, and it's not always based on how their career ends. But in the case of Brandon Roy, who really was a great player for a short sample set, and then had a terrible setback of injuries, has this transition been smooth for him? In terms of not just the success on the court, but what you gather from him as a person?
Well, I think it obviously took a few years for Brandon Roy, to find the new way to have an impact on basketball. As I mentioned, during his years off from his professional career, he spent a lot of time working with other athletes and working with kids, and I think that's what eventually decided, for him, he decided to coach because, he loved the impact that he could have on others. So, what's the transition been like? Well, his teammate helped us win the state championship, so I wouldn't say it's been too difficult.
Well, and certainly not, too. They finished, 22-0, and they were nationally ranked. That's big stuff, because very few high schools really do get a chance to get nationally ranked. I think of some schools maybe around LA, Chicago, Baltimore, New York, but you have a team in the Northwest. That's really saying something about that brand of basketball. And what type of impact has he had on some of those young players specifically?
Well, I think it's difficult to say because, the two stars of the team right now are the Porter brothers, who actually just transferred in to make out this season. You've got John Kay, who is allegedly going to be one of the top recruits of the 2018 class, and Michael Jr., who is expected to go number one in the nation. So these guys are already really talented guys coming in. But I'm sure having someone who has an experience of being a professional player, being a collegiate player, to kind of give them some expert advice definitely, help mold these guys and making some of their decisions. And I also like to, I don't know if you've heard recently, but, they were given the option to compete for a national title, and, Roy has decided to forego that for the team because Michael Porter Jr. is, playing in the Nike Hoop Summit. He's playing in the McDonald's All-American Games. He felt that was really important for him. So I think that he's definitely helped pave the way for a lot of these guys, but I also think it also has a lot to do with the players themselves.
Well, and I think too, just from what you said right there, making that decision to not play is kind of interesting because we think in all these states, right? We have state tournaments, and I'm not sure, and you can let me know here. So in Washington, before you get to the state tournament, is it called like sectionals or districts, or what do you do before you actually get into the state tournament, or is it just states right away after your regular season?
No, so there's sectionals, I guess you would say, before you make it to the state championship.
Okay.
It depends on the state, like you said.
Yeah, and so what I was thinking was, like, I know like here in New York, for instance, like, and I know it's similar to this in Massachusetts and a couple other places, but let's say you win a sectional title. That's a huge accomplishment for your school. And then you go to the state tournament, you lose somewhere. And it's like, oh, well, we kind of forgot we won the sectionals. And then, like in his case, they win the states. I understand the motive is like, well, some of these players have to take care of their personal business to get ready for college, which I think is a great mentoring situation, but it also caps off that season for them. Like, they don't get an opportunity to go into the national tournament and potentially lose somewhere, and then it's like, not all for naught, but it's kind of like ends on a solid note. So that shows some definite maturity right off the bat, that not only does he have his team's interest in mind, but as you said, like with the Porter brothers and some of the other players, he has their personal interest in mind. And it's hard to find a coach that can balance those things. And, I've often said sometimes it helps if you've played to coach, but I know there are coaches that weren't very good players or maybe didn't even play but loved the game and just, learned everything they possibly could. So, because he takes this approach, now, Nathan Hale, private school or public school?
Public school. They're in Tacoma.
Okay, so you said that some of these kids are transferring in. Are any people kind of coming to the district because of his presence now as a coach?
So these two were the only ones that transferred in this season specifically, but I wouldn't be surprised if next season, people see the success of, Brandon Roy and what he's been able to do. Nathan Hale was at they won 3 games the season before, 3 games, and then, of course, they were undefeated this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if, some of those people from Seattle, because this is Tacoma, about half an hour south, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these, people from Seattle want to, go over to Tacoma to see if, they can get, to be coached by Brandon Roy. I mean, that's a big deal.
Right, and also too, even furthermore, with his presence, what I think might help, as we transition our conversation here in a second to the NCAA's, is if all this talent is so strong in Washington and in Oregon and maybe even, I don't know, parts of Montana, Idaho, I'm just kind of thinking of that northwest corridor there in Northern California, does this maybe help some kids want to stay? Like want to go to Gonzaga, want to go to Washington State, some of those types of schools, and maybe not exit, in this case it would be stage right, heading to the east or heading to the central part of the country.
I think it's difficult to say, especially when we're talking about Washington right now. Washington State and University of Washington, neither of them had great seasons. But there was some other schools, in California, like UCLA, like Oregon, Arizona, even if you want to go a little bit more southwest, that did have these great seasons and are continuously, bringing in new talent. So I think it's encouraging for a lot of West Coast, younger players to see, that there's all these schools over here that, can make the tournament and then go far and do really well for themselves. So obviously I think that comes into play when younger guys are deciding where they want to go to college or where they want to play, even professionally afterwards.
Yeah, and it's just kind of funny how you can have that residual effect. You can have a player who played in the NBA represent his region so well, and then be able to have such a positive influence on the youth game. And too many guys we do see when their careers are over with, whether it's physical ailments or they go off the deep end financially or criminally or whatever the case may be, it's nice to see guys that were great people, great players, and then turn around and impact their communities in a positive way. And it seems like that Seattle vibe with Brandon Roy at the center, but that Seattle vibe is to give back.
Right.
So, well, this kind of transitions us a little bit, talking high school hoops, talking a great college player who became a really solid NBA player, to our West Coast bracketology. Now, I'm not going to corner you in here, Lindsey. You can talk about the other coast as well, which is really the coast that's probably biased, because we always talk about the East Coast. We should be talking about what's going on out west as well. And as we speak, just because it's here, when people listen to this podcast, it might be a few days after, but with some time left early, actually just before the under-16 media timeout, UC Davis leads North Carolina Central 38-34. So good things happening for the West Coast right now. But we've got a ton of Western teams in the tournament. They're spread out throughout all the regions. Particularly starting right now, last night and tonight, we have our first four going on. Some people think that's part of the tournament, some people don't. But we've got two of the West Coast teams playing tonight, UC Davis right now, and then USC later. So let's just tackle that real quick, and then we'll kind of bounce around to the different regions. What do you make of these, what some would call play-in games, and does a team like USC have a chance to win and move on? Because it seems like a Dayton team, a team that ends up in Dayton, if they win a game, not a 16 seed, but if they win a game, 11 seed, 12 seed, they end up winning another game usually sometimes.
Well, I think we'll tackle USC first, since it's kind of the one that's, I guess, the bigger of the two right now. USC lost last year in the first round. I think that they've learned from it, and I think we're going to see that, in this first four game. And I think we could maybe even see it happen in the next game as well, but as it applies to Providence, this kind of this matchup right now, I think Providence has the edge in terms of, they do have more losses than USC, but I think they have, more wins under their belt that are a bit stronger. As you may recall, during February, they beat Butler, Xavier, Creighton, Marquette, DePaul, and St. John, all back-to-back. So I think that's really huge, and I think their wins are a little bit stronger. USC, their last few wins haven't really been anything to brag about. They won against Washington State and UW, their previous three wins, but then they lost by just 2 to UCLA, who is one of the more powerful teams in the West Coast. So whoever wins this game is, I don't want to say it in a bad way, but screwed, because they're going to be going up against SMU, who's been very powerful. So I wouldn't get too excited if I were either team.
Well, as you were saying, Providence kind of not to put the Pac-12 down at all, because there are certainly, I believe, aspects of the Pac-12 that are extremely competitive, and then there are some that aren't. But in Providence's situation, this experiment, I think, by the Big East breaking off, to be kind of their old traditional conference, and then they added a few other teams in to make it a little more stronger. But it's a gauntlet, and Providence, and even Seton Hall, who's in the tournament, has been kind of on the rise the last couple of years. When they were programs in the old Big East down the stretch before all that mass exodus, that were like horrendous, and we're always in that first game of the Big East tournament. They got buried and it was over with. So you're right. I think Providence is a battle-tested team. But you know what? What's funny too is some people are picking USC to upset SMU. As much as people are high on SMU, and I'm actually pretty high on them. I've got them going to the regional final in the East. But this could happen. But like you said, maybe not get too excited, because USC's season wasn't stellar. It was just kind of middle of the pack.
I will say, I think USC did have a tough season. They lost Benny Boatwright for 17 games earlier on, and the team was still able to win 24 games. So that's saying a lot. They've really been able to give some other guys a chance to develop, and now that they have Benny back, I think that upset could be possible. I'm not going to rule it out. The SMU is pretty tough team.
Well, but we know though too that Andy Enfield's really kind of like the king of upsets. I happen to be present in Philadelphia when his Florida Gulf Coast team beat Georgetown, and that was a heck of an atmosphere to be a part of. So if he can maybe put together some of that magic, you never know what can happen. But why don't we shift a little bit to the Blue Bloods, we'll call them, and the Blue Bloods on the West Coast. So They're actually, two of them are in the West bracket. Gonzaga is the number 1 seed. I don't know if we're going to see the Gonzaga that everyone's hoping this year. They're always kind of like, they're almost like still the underdog, even though they're not. And then Arizona's the number 2 seed in that region. And then in a few seconds here, we'll talk about Oregon and UCLA. But in that West bracket, obviously, each one of those teams are playing the Dakotas early on. North Dakota State, South Dakota State. Do you see either Gonzaga or Arizona making it out of the West region, or do you think somebody else is going to come in and sort of knock them off?
I'm pretty confident both Gonzaga and Arizona are going to make it through this round. Gonzaga, they were 32-1. They had that one loss to BYU. They played tough competition last season. This season, I guess you could say. They had some big wins against Florida, Arizona, and St. Mary's. And, of course, you have to, look statistically, a number 1 seed has never lost to a 16 seed. So I personally think that Gonzaga is in for a matchup against Arizona again later on in the tournament. And as for Arizona, they've been one of those they're one of the top teams in the country right now. They've got Lowry Markman, who is so versatile. He can catch and shoot the 3 flawlessly. And not to mention, they've got, extremely balanced scoring going on with 6 players averaging between 9 and 17 points, according to ESPN. So I think this is the year Sean Miller and the Wildcats make it not only to the Final Four, but to the championship game.
Now, I got to ask you this. Do you feel a little dirty after those positive things you just said? Like, do you need to maybe take a break and take a shower? I mean, you're an Arizona State. You're an Arizona State grad, and I won't say you fell all over the Wildcats because you didn't. But how does that feel to like the rival? You were just there 1 year, but it's still the rival. Are you kind of rooting against them a little bit in your heart?
I don't know. I did watch the Pac-12 tournament, this last weekend, and it didn't want it a little bit. I actually lived in Portland, Oregon for 5 years, so I thought of myself, being more of a Duck, even though I didn't go there per se. So rooting for the Ducks, and then moving out to Arizona, where I went to ASU, I still kind of rooted against Arizona, but they're just so talented this year, and they're talented every year, and they've done a really good job of developing talent and getting their guys, into this tournament year after year. So, it's hard to knock them when they're that good.
Well, I'm glad you can do that, and I think fortunately for me, I don't have a true college team other than my Albany Great Danes, which are playing in the College Insider Tournament. I don't know if anyone will pay attention to that on the internet, but they're part of that. Our women are in the NCAA Tournament, and we're playing UConn. I can't be more disappointed about that draw. I thought they would have got some respect for 6 straight trips to the NCAA Tournament. I thought maybe they'd make them a 16 or a 15 and put them somewhere else. But that being said, if this had been an NBA segment and I had to say positive things about the Lakers or the Knicks, I think I might have vomited a little bit in my mouth. So I'm glad that you could get through that, talking about Arizona and feeling positive about them. So if Arizona's going to make it to that title game, okay, we've got some other teams, though, that have had some really successful years. Where do we see St. Mary's coming out in the Midwest? What about Oregon? And what about UCLA? Are any of those teams going to make a deep run?
Well, I do know a lot of people have UCLA in their brackets going far. I personally don't see them going deep in the tournament. That's just my own personal opinion. Yeah, they've got Bull right now who's played some outstanding games, but I think this will be the crucial thing for UCLA. They need to have the same number of possessions as their opponent, because if you look at the Bruins' losses, they had 4 losses last season. They didn't have the same number of possessions as their opponent, and therefore that was the problem. That's not why they lost. But as UCLA, they're a fast-paced offensive team. They're going to really need to play defense well throughout this tournament to go far. So, will they make it past Kent State? I'd say surely, but deep in the tournament, I'm not really sure on. And then, in terms of Oregon, gosh, they're a team I worry about because, after losing Chris Boucher last week in the Pac-12 tournament, I'm not really sure who the Ducks are right now. And even head coach Sean Miller from Arizona commented how even though Arizona won the tournament, he felt as if, Oregon, they didn't get Oregon at their best with Boucher out. So because the injury is so recent to the Ducks, it's going to be interesting to see, how they come out in the Pac-12 tournament.
And that's kind of been an issue for Oregon, is that having these recent injuries and sort of piecing it together. I think like some teams, some people are not really certain what Oregon team's going to show up. It's like, we have prior sample sets to show us how good they are, but are they going to be able to piece it all together with the critical injuries that maybe came at a somewhat unfortunate time?
I still think they're going to make a run in the tournament, but I don't see them going too far. Maybe I have to look at my bracket, but maybe Sweet 16. I'm not very certain about their path to go deep this year.
And it's tough. It's going to be tough coming out of that Midwest. You got Michigan, who's on a hot streak after winning the Big Ten tournament, and Louisville certainly played good, and then Kansas at the top half. So it's probably one of the more difficult of the regions that you're going to see. So it could be tough for Oregon. Now, you mentioned Lonzo Ball, and I just think we got to take a little side second here. So, what's going on with this situation? As good as this kid is, and I've seen him, play a little bit on TV. I might have even stayed up late for one of those West Coast games. But Dad is all over the place. He was on SportsCenter today, running his mouth about how he could beat Michael Jordan, he could beat Charles Barkley, and the guy had 2.2 points in his career, and I think 1 year played in college. So, is the story of Lonzo Ball being overshadowed by Dad, or do you think it's just a small piece of it and he's going to transition well in the NBA and everything's going to be fine?
I do think he's going to have a rough transition into the NBA, mainly because of, the weight that, this whole conversation with his dad carries, because now his dad's talking about he's going to go to the Lakers, he's the next Michael Jordan, and don't get me wrong, he's a talented guy. I mean, he's someone he's arguably the best player in the country right now. But for his dad to be out there so publicly making these comments, it really casts a bad shadow on him as a player, and it focuses more on, the side stuff. But he grew up playing, he's got three brothers. He grew up playing ball with his brothers. His dad, put him through drills where they're consistently shooting, deep threes on the norm. So I think his dad knows his best, but I think his dad, also needs to take a back seat and let, his son kind of, be in the spotlight right now. It's
really hard for Dad to sell this, billion-dollar situation where it's like, yeah, I want my kids to get $1 billion contract. That's what somebody better give us right off the bat for a shoe deal. I just hope, I wish the kid well. I think it's great when UCLA is relevant, kind of like in other sports when a classic team is relevant. But you just hope I hope Dad doesn't get a lot of FaceTime. Like they don't do the in the crowd interview with Dad during the game, because, it's funny because Dad's going to have less and less influence, I think, when the kid goes to the league, because nobody's going to want to hear from him anymore. No GM, no coach, nothing. So, it's kind of interesting to look at this. But UCLA's got another...
It's a weird dynamic.
It is. It's a weird dynamic. But UCLA's got some other pieces, too. And I think, initially of a guy who he didn't really wow me much early was Steve Alford's son, Bryce. But Bryce has significant tournament experience, and I know when UCLA got in as a bubble team a couple years ago, people were sort of unhappy with that, and then they went on a little run, won a game or two. So, are they the most complete team, you think, in some regards, coming out of the Pac-12, or is it still Arizona?
I think it's still Arizona. Bryce is great. He's, had a big impact on that team, and I think it helps out, his father as a coach. And I do have to put in a disclaimer here. I am related to both Bryce and his father.
Oh, closely related, or what?
Yeah, not closely, apparently. So my maiden name is Alford, and apparently we are related. I've never met them, but apparently we do have blood relation in some sort of way. But so that's pretty cool. So if they want to hire me over at UCLA, I'm available.
Well, I think that should parlay into some tickets maybe that you should be going down to Sacramento before the week is over with. They should be putting you on that guest pass list for the team. I don't know if you can reach...
No, I'll just send them a text and let them know I'm coming down.
Make sure you reach out somehow. I think that could really lend itself. So, speaking of that, Sacramento, we've got some pretty solid sites this year where the tournament's located on the West Coast, and I know that they've been trying more and more over the past couple of years to really get the tournament in some of those West Coast spots, because it seems like so many traditional places are either like in the Midwest. Kansas is used a lot for early rounds. New Orleans, Houston for the Final Four, and then the classic East Coast sites. And this year, I know Arizona's not on the coast, but you got the Final Four in Phoenix. You've got the regionals in San Jose, and then you've got Salt Lake City and Sacramento as some early round sites. So, which one of these sites seems to be special, and either with the teams that are there or just in general?
I think that's difficult. I think obviously Final Four in Glendale is huge. It's going to be their first, big. They've had a lot of big tournaments, big games over the last couple of years in basketball, football, et cetera, et cetera. But, this year, I think this is their first big tournament that they're going to have for, the next 5 years. So Arizona's going to be the draw after this, looking for, big events to draw people in. So I think that makes Glendale really, really special this year. And then another, I really do like that they decided to choose Salt Lake City this year as one of the places, because Utah doesn't get quite enough attention, especially, with the Jazz. They're one of those teams that is performing really well this year in the NBA, and it just seems like they're always flying under the radar. So Salt Lake City is a really hot spot, and it's going to host Northwestern in the first round, and I know a lot of NU people are going out for that one, because obviously they've never had a game in the NCAA tournament before, so they're going to have a big drawing there.
Yeah, they have a great alumni base, all around the country, being kind of that, I don't want to say, almost like what they call Stanford the Ivy of the West. I would be like, Northwestern could probably be like one of the Ivies of the Midwest if they had it, and their grads are all over the place, so that's going to be huge. People are going to be super excited for that game, no doubt.
Right. And then Sacramento is kind of a weird location, I would say. Sac's definitely one of the bigger towns in California, but it doesn't seem to draw big numbers as it applies to the NBA. I think what, it does have going, for it is they will be hosting teams like Oregon, who, obviously one state away is going to draw, big numbers. So I think that having a team, or having a location in California was a smart idea. I don't necessarily think Sacramento is the most desirable destination to do that, but if they have the infrastructure to do it, definitely it's going to benefit their economy out there.
Well, and I think the NCAA has really tried to do this a lot the last few years. I think, I'd have to look it up, but when the pod system was created probably a little over a decade ago, they really tried to put teams geographically closer to home. I think they try to help some of the even higher seed teams, or lower seed, however you want to put it, the 14s, 15s, 16s, where they don't necessarily have to travel as far. But truth be told too, the NCAA, this is money. Like student athlete, I don't even want to hear that. They want to put teams geographically so they can have some butts in the seats. And some of these first and second round games and sites, historically, I'm even thinking like I've gone for a full day to, where that last game doesn't start till like 10 o'clock at night and there's hardly anybody there. But there's been some places where like that noon game, there's nobody there. So they got to be really strategic with the placing of the teams, and I actually think this year geographically, particularly with these Western teams, they did a good job with the placement.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think it's important to have these, as you mentioned with NCAA, to have these locations so centrally located to the schools for recruiting purposes. It's really good for specifically Arizona, for Arizona and Arizona State to be so close to Glendale and to be able to have that opportunity to, really see talent at its finest is huge.
And it would be amazing if Arizona did get to the Final Four, because again, you could only really imagine the amount of people that are going to be there. It's going to be like a home game. It kind of reminds me a little bit. I think one year the Final Four was in Indianapolis and Butler. That was one of the years they made the national championship game. Butler was like 10 minutes down the street from Lucas Oil Stadium. So this is, I know Tucson's right. Not right. It's not far from Phoenix, but it's a little ways. But they'll have everybody there. So let's kind of look.
Well, I do hope. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I do hope that, they're going to have the current of distraction out for Arizona if Arizona does play in Glendale. I don't know if you're familiar with the current of distraction at the basketball game.
Well, I'll give kind of my opinion on that, but I don't want to offend you, but I kind of think it's stupid, and I kind of think that, but let me qualify that for a minute. I can't believe some of the things that they can do that are considered acceptable. Like, I remember this kid was coming out during the end of the season. It might have been Arizona State's last game, and last regular season game, and he was like putting mayonnaise on his nipples. And I was like, that's just plain gross. So some of the things are creative. Even Michael Phelps coming out in a Speedo, I thought was like kind of cool because just the way they presented it. But that be as it is, statistically it is proven that the curtain of distraction is actually difficult on teams.
Right. And I think it could play a key role in Arizona, being upset in a situation like that. But the ASU Trolls are going to be there nonetheless. So, curtain of distraction or not, there's going to be some people there that are not going to be rooting for Arizona.
The Sun Devils are going to have their strong presence. They'll probably even wear their maroon and gold. Just to spite the Wildcats. So that being as it is, we're kind of talking a little bit about some of this Final Four stuff. Let's look at kind of the bracket as a whole. All the regions, and we've focused obviously on the West Coast, the sites, the teams, and those kinds of things. But who are some teams that you're seeing in that first round? Maybe even just taking a peek at some matchups that are upsets. So if we're not going to talk about the West Coast teams or where they're located, what other teams are you seeing upset City Alert tomorrow and Friday?
Well, I don't have my bracket in front of me, but you were mentioning earlier for West Coast, and I do see them upsetting Florida State in the first round. I know that was one of my upsets I had, and a lot of people are talking about that one.
Yep.
I think that's a good possibility. I will have to pull it up. Why don't you talk about some of yours and I'll get mine up here?
Well, my upset teams, and I kind of mentioned this in the larger pod with Coach Tyler, I've got this weird feeling about the South Carolina Gamecocks. They had to move the site, I believe, because of the, in my opinion, ridiculous, unfortunate, discriminatory laws that are taking place in North Carolina. And I think they were going to be in Greensboro, and they moved it to Greenville, South Carolina. And I could see South Carolina, as good as Duke is playing, beating them in the second round. So like they would get their win against Marquette, and Duke would beat Troy. And I see that as a weird kind of upset, blow-up situation to a lot of people's brackets. And certainly Florida Gulf Coast I feel like, as good as they were that one year when they beat Georgetown, but nobody knew how good they were then, but now people know.
Right.
And a lot of people are high on Middle Tennessee.
I'm surprised to see that, though.
What's that?
I would be surprised to see that, though, to see Duke fall so early in the tournament, especially as powerful as they've been here recently, beating UNC in the tournament.
Exactly. So, yeah, I know a lot of people would see that. Maybe it's just me not being a Duke fan, hoping for the worst for them. I don't know. Certainly people are high on Middle Tennessee. I'm going to rep the American East, where UAlbany's from, and say I think Vermont has a little chance of maybe squeaking past Purdue. But now, this isn't the same Vermont team that beat Syracuse, over a decade ago with some big shots from TJ Sorrentine and Gus Johnson on the call. But those are just kind of some random spots where you might see something.
What about that Northwestern Vanderbilt matchup?
In a weird way, like, I picked Northwestern, but like in a weird way, I feel like Northwestern, they're still an underdog, and that 8-9 game is not really like an upset game anymore. But if they're riding a wave, like I wouldn't want to be the Zags in the second round.
I have Zags playing Northwestern in the second round, and then I have the Zags are going pretty far. But as I mentioned earlier, I have Gonzaga and Arizona playing each other, and Arizona winning that game. And I have that Arizona going to the championship game.
So who are your other?
You don't have the winning though.
Well, you can't have a win in your situation. But other than Arizona, who are your other three that you're going to put there in the Final Four?
I have Villanova, who, I was hesitant to put in the Final Four. A lot of people are saying, this is a team that could, do it again this year. So I put in Final Four, but I don't want to risk having them win it all. I have Villanova, I have, of course, UNC, who, is another team I'm, on the bubble with right now, especially after they lost to Duke recently. They're going to have to rebound from that. And, coming to this tournament, I'm pretty sure that they've got a nice roster, and I can see them going far. And then, of course, I have Kansas as well, and Kansas is my winner.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, not a lot of people have Kansas, so I just think that they're going to be the team this year, and that just kind of surprises people. But I clicked on a lot of brackets recently. I mean, I put mine together, I think. I put it together on Selection Sunday just randomly, and I initially had UNC winning. But after seeing how they played recently, I'm not confident enough in that. So I'm going with Kansas. What about you?
Well, Kansas is one of those teams that, they find a way to get bounced early, but maybe this year with a star player like Frank Mason, they make their run. I have them going to the Final Four, but I don't feel confident because I think that whether it's Oregon, Michigan, or Louisville coming out of that bottom part of the Midwest bracket, I think Kansas is going to be in for a war in that regional final. I got North Carolina coming out of the South, actually winning it all, and I don't feel comfortable with that either because in a similar case as Kansas, they've got UCLA and Kentucky at the bottom of their bracket. So a lot of things have to happen for those number one seeds to make it. I do have Villanova because I feel like if that South Carolina thing happens, and I've got SMU making a little run in the East. The East is going to kind of be so wide open, and it's actually weaker, I think, in some regards than some of the other regions. It allows Villanova to get there. And then in the West, I'm going to take the team that has West in their name and where Jerry West went to school, the West Virginia Mountaineers. I don't know why.
Wow.
I'm not usually one of those people that grabs like a random team and takes them all the way to the final game, but I feel like they can get through the Zags. I don't know enough, but don't also trust Arizona 100% either. And with the press that West Virginia has, and they've been displaying all year, which has been brutal on teams in the Big 12, I could see them being that weird team that makes it, that doesn't belong, finds their way in the title game, but just doesn't have enough talent to beat North Carolina. So there's a lot of little sleepers. I think there's even teams that, like we said, are blue blood teams, the UCLAs, the Louisvilles, the Dukes, the Kentuckys, that are like sleepers. They're going to push it all the way to that regional final or that regional semifinal, but maybe just not be able to get over the hump. A lot of strong teams this year, a lot of deep teams. So, it's hard to really analyze, where things are going to go. I mean, we all fill out these brackets, and where do they really take us in the end? So.
Right. Last year I was pretty successful. I had 3 of the 4 teams at the end, but I can't remember who I had go out early, but it was someone that a lot of people had go out early, making them winning it all. So of course it didn't really do anything for me, but I pride myself on being an expert on these.
Well, it might be un-American, but last year I did not fill out a sheet, and it kind of dates back a little bit to the year that, when I was last a Syracuse fan in 2003, I remember filling one out, and I don't know if I picked Syracuse to win it all, I can't remember, but I had almost every game in the first round either won or lost by 1 or 2 points. And I said, that's like lightning in a bottle. Either you're going to get all those right or you're going to be as close as I did. So it is actually a weird trip to not fill one out and just watch the games. But this year I said, let's get back into it again and give it a shot. So we'll see.
Well, then how happy are you that my bracket name this year is R.I.P. Bayheim?
I don't really have an issue with that. In fact, as we speak right now, they're playing in the NIT against UNC Greensboro. The game got canceled due to the weather, and yesterday. And of course, there's all that drama going on after Bayheim said, that Greensboro should never be the site for the ACC tournament anymore. So there's been a lot of ribbing going on, in the Bayheim situation with a minor league team in Greensboro for baseball doing a Jim Boeheim no value night. So there's a lot of weird drama in Syracuse, but they made a great run last year and good for them. Of course, the women went all the way to the title game, but you don't, as we talked about in the main show, you only win 2 games on the road all year long. You might have had some huge wins at home, but how can, as much as the committee makes mistakes, how can you justify putting a team that is suspect on the road or in neutral sites in a tournament where you're on the road and in a neutral site pretty much every game?
Right, I agree.
So, no, that's a great name. Don't post that on social media in Syracuse. They won't like that very much. So I might get a laugh, but they're not necessarily going to get a laugh. So let's just wrap up with this real quick. So obviously we started off. We talked a little bit about Brandon Roy and where his career is now as a high school coach. We kind of dove deep into the NCAA tournament, particularly the West Coast, and that'll be nice for West Coast listeners to really get a chance of, hearing about their teams. But because you're normally coming in and talking to us about the Blazers, just give us a little Blazers outlook here with a few weeks left of the season and kind of where they're going to finish.
Ooh, well, I think the Blazers just had, I think it was a 24-point loss last night. So, it's difficult to say. They had that game the other night. It was against Phoenix. Against the Wizards. Where I think it was Marquise Morris. He stepped out of bounds on that final play, and then of course, the refs came out later on saying, we didn't notice that he stepped on the sideline with 0.4 seconds left, and he made the baseline jump shot to beat the Blazers in overtime. But bottom line is the Blazers are a little rocky right now. I think what is hard for them is the fact that they have been so rocky. They'll win one, lose one, win one, lose one, but Denver's still winning, and so I think they got to one game back, and then Denver pulled away again. So I'm not feeling too optimistic about the Blazers making the playoffs this, coming up this next, month or so. But, we'll see what happens.
It could happen. The Nuggets are not a trustworthy team. I mean, so you never know. And they're only got a 3-game lead, so a few things can happen. And I don't know if they play each other before the season's over with, but if they do, that's certainly a game to look forward to, and maybe the Blazers sneak in there. They certainly got the talent at the guards position, so we'll see if that translates. But so. Well, we want to thank Lindsey Wisniewski for being here with us. She's a very multifaceted sports journalist, so you need to start reading her stuff as a social media correspondent for the Seattle Seahawks. Start looking her up and seeing that she's not just about the hoops, she's also about football. And I know that she covered a little baseball too, didn't you, when you were in grad school? So you might be able to give us some insight on some Western Division baseball teams if we need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this has been Borderline Ballers Overtime. We look forward to doing a few more of these as well, in addition to our full episodes that you can find on YouTube. And we will be back with a full episode this week, and we look forward for you to listen again.